everyone, it's Winter with the Shift Spotlight, and today we have a super special guest with us. His name is Ken Paskins. He's the CEO of GCE Strategic Consulting, which is our sponsor for this awesome podcast that we host and bringing visionaries, business owners, and people of the EOS community together. So without further ado, Ken, welcome to our show.
Hey, Winter, it's great to be here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for being on it. So before we dive into what we're going to talk about with you today, why don't you just share with our audience, why are you sponsoring the Shift Spotlight? What does a Shift Spotlight even mean? I think a lot of our listeners don't know what Shift Spotlight means. So what does it mean, and why did you decide to sponsor this podcast?
Yeah, well, as you know, I've been working with CEOs and visionaries for, well, we'll round up 9 years or close to a decade per se. And regardless of the industry and or the size, pre-revenue to even 200 million in revenue, I see a lot of the similar problems and pain points that they go through, right? And often at times I feel like they're all alone or at the top per se. So the Shift Spotlight is a place where CEOs and others surrounding them can go and speak on some of their experiences and make a shift in their business and their life. And it's quite honestly, it's just our way to give back, because as I have found in speaking with a lot of these folks, they often feel like they're the only ones feeling these pains. So we're going to walk through people's journeys and their paths in lives and share with them some of the things that they've learned and experienced, and hopefully helps our listeners as well.
And that's exactly where we're appreciative, and where the name that came from is this podcast is all about making shifts in your personal life and your business life. We hope that something you hear resonates. We hope something that you hear makes an impact and a change. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. And before we do, I'm going to ask you, like all of my guests, love to start out with a little bit of an icebreaker. Why don't you tell us an interesting fact about you that people may not know?
Wow, interesting. That's where it gets difficult right there. Now, I'm teasing. Honestly, probably an interesting fact that most do not know about me, minus my family, is that I'm actually a really good cook. I've been spending as much time cooking as of lately because I've been busy running and building the business. But I'm typically one of those folks that can go to a restaurant, sample something, try something, and then go home and make it. So that's one of my hidden secrets, if you will.
What is the best thing that you have made after going to a restaurant and coming back and duplicating it?
The best thing I have made, I would have to say either probably tied for two things, paella or ossobuco.
Okay. All right. So why don't you tell our listeners at a high level what it is that you do?
Yeah. So what we do is GCE. We work with businesses from revenues of startup all the way. We've worked with companies up to 260 million. Our niche is working with clients that actually deploy EOS, right, which stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. We've served clients in over 10 different countries. And although we focus on EOS or niche, business is transferable, right? I'd say about 10 to 15% of our clients don't even use EOS. But we really like working with clients that do, for a couple reasons. One, when clients start to adopt EOS, the CEO is admitting that I don't have all the answers. I want to make a change. I want to grow either professionally or personally. And that's really attractive for us because we know that we can then go in and help them and make an impact. And we've worked across just about every industry that you can think of, from CPA firms to law firms to SaaS to marketing agencies, healthcare, you name it. But that's the area that we focus on.
So can you share a little bit about your background and working specifically with CEOs and business owners, and how you directly work or your company directly works with them and what you can do for them?
Yeah, certainly. So prior to doing this, by the way, GC stands for my daughters, Gabrielle, Chloe, and Emma, because I am not a marketer. But prior to doing this, I grew up in the software industry, and I managed some very large P&Ls and teams of 450 plus. Had both North American and international experience as well. And I got tired of traveling 150,000 miles a year. So I dropped out of corporate America and fell into EOS, is the best way to put it, and fell in love with it. And once I did that, I actually put in a call to a gentleman, the founder of EOS, Gino Wickman, and Mark Winters, who co-authored a book with him. And I assessed that there was a need for visionaries to have some additional horsepower added to their team, specifically in the integrator seat or COO seat. And I really started the fractional integrator movement and working with CEOs in a variety of ways and helping them break through problems or scale the business or M&A. And now GCE offers a full breadth of services. So we don't just have fractional COOs, but we have finance and HR, marketing and sales, and full-time recruiting as well.
So what motivated you to get into this field?
Yeah, what motivated me is, boy, it's a little bit of everything, right? It's going back and looking and reflecting about your childhood, meaning that I grew up in Indiana with a really hard and solid work ethic and working in the fields at a very young age. Growing up in an entrepreneur family, watching my father literally getting near bankrupt, and maybe he was a couple times and just didn't share with the family, but having lots of money to little, if any money, to literally having to loan my parents money to pay their phone bills, to realizing that, I wanted to go out and grow as an individual and not take those risks. I'm quite honestly very conservative from that perspective. So I took the corporate route. And then after, earning, different promotions and growing up the ranks from a corporate perspective, I determined that I wanted to go out and take that experience and help entrepreneurs and help, CEOs and business owners that might be struggling, like I saw my father and see so many do.
So you kind of went and got skilled in
Yes.
what you're training these CEOs and owners, as opposed to a lot of entrepreneurs who have a great idea or have a high risk tolerance, and they make a jump, they take a leap, and then they find themselves really learning on the job. You, in essence, sort of lived the blueprint that you're now sharing with these owners. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I mean, look, there's a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this that can relate, right? But a lot of them really start with a great idea in either service or a product, or they're a great salesperson, and the business accidentally takes off. I've seen this hundreds and hundreds of times, and and they have to teach themselves everything from leadership to management to developing process and people to understanding finances. And a lot of times they can gain success, right? And grow their businesses. And I've seen that. I've seen companies grow 10, 15, 20 million, but there's still something missing. So what GCE does and what I do is we bring that competency and expertise from being there, done that per se, and really provide that support system or mechanism to help them break through whatever challenges that they're facing.
So along those lines, what are some of the common challenges or pain points that these owners and CEOs are experiencing?
Yeah, the number one thing that I see in any call that I've had with a CEO specifically is a lot of times they feel like they don't have basically the right people in the right seat. So really surrounding yourself with the right people. And they do this for a variety of reasons that I've seen. Number one is they grow fond of their employees, right? And they become their friends, or or they're a family member. So they make excuses. Susie is my sister, so she has to be the CFO, right? And or so they can't make those tough decisions, and or they don't want to pay the salaries that for some of the talent that they actually need to scale the business. So these are a couple reasons. But the number one thing that I tell every business owner and either leader or manager is, first thing you got to do is surround yourself with the right people. And if you can't do that full time, then that's when leaning on a company like GCE and bringing fractional support and leadership to the table in any of those roles can be a huge, huge benefit and help you really break through that glass ceiling per se. The other thing is, they honestly sometimes don't invest enough into sales and marketing. I know this is a broad statistic, but Gartner says you should invest anywhere from 10 to 50% of your revenues back into sales and marketing, right? Now that varies based upon growth rates, industries, and everything else, but most companies don't do that. And to actually grow a business, it takes a lot of cash. It takes a lot of investing back. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of CEOs say, I wish I could pay myself what I pay my people. And that's the case. But in order to get to $1 million, $2 million, sometimes you got to invest back a great deal more. Another problem that I see is honestly just cash flow management. And a lot of people, and specifically even our CFO or finance practice leader preaches, is having insights into cash flow for the 13 months, rolling 13 months or 13 weeks going forward. And a lot of owners will look at cash, and if cash gets thinner, they'll simply cut expensive. If it grows, then they'll simply spend more money. But you really want to try to get a hold of your cash flow and have great insights into it and how it's going to look for the next 13 weeks to come so that you can make those decisions. And then, the old making emotional decisions versus data decisions. And I've come across a lot of CEOs that have told me, I'm not a great leader or a great manager, but it's also scary because that's what my people are expecting me to do. But once again, these are all areas that GCE can step in, and we can help bring a calmness to this chaos and, help you scale to 10 million and beyond.
Yeah, I like what you said, bringing calmness to chaos, because I think that, what I typically see, and especially the people I talk to on the podcast, is they're constantly running around with their hair on fire. That's a saying
Right.
they say. They're in everything. They take projects back from people. And you're saying, why are you doing that when you're supposed to leverage your people to grow the
Right.
business? And so I love what you said about, bringing calmness to the chaos. What are some of the misconceptions, or what is misunderstood about fractional services? I hear that word a lot. I know people talk about it a lot, but why is it so misunderstood?
Yeah, well, I don't know where you're going with misunderstood, but here's some things that people do think, right? So, I've spoken to some that believe that, oh, I can go get a fractional person that will work with me 25% of the time, and it'd be 25% of the cost. That's not always true. So generally, and then when they see the cost associated with, they start to go, wow, I could actually get a full time. But they've got to actually do the right comparisons, right? So what does that mean? So I've spoken to business owners that own a 10 to $20 million business, and they want to bring on a fractional COO. And full time, they're looking at paying this person 125,000 or 150,000. That's not a lot of money, right, for that type of person and for the expectations they're looking to put on that person. But they could go out and find a fractional resource, right, that can work with them 20, 25% of the time. And it could be comparable to cost, to be quite honest. Right. And what I like to explain to people, it's kind of like going and hiring a SWAT team or a Navy SEAL versus just general ground level troops per se. You're really bringing expertise to the table. You're bringing people that have decades of experience. I mean, for example, one of the guys on my team, he has scaled and exited 5 different businesses himself. He has scaled one company to $120 million, right? So most of our clients don't have that experience, right? And they can get access to that asset, right? And leapfrog the competition versus settling for lack of experience and a certain cost. So I'd say that is one of the misconceptions, and probably honestly one of the primarily ones. That and just not understanding, wow, I could actually have somebody that spends less time with me than full time, but make actually a much larger impact. And once again, and that is driven because of their experience and what they've done.
So can you give us some specific examples, like companies that you've worked with that you've turned around by implementing some of these services?
Yeah, so just a couple that come to mind. There is a company that gave me a call months ago. It was a landscaping business and out in California. And we'll just leave it all very high level. But this poor guy was really struggling. His revenues went from $7 million down to $5 million. His office manager / admin left. With that, he lost insight to all of his systems. And with that, she ran all of the processes and they were all stuck in her head. And he also started to experience significant turnover in his team and realized that somebody was stealing from him, right? So that's pretty daunting. And some of the first things that start to go through this guy's head, should I close it all down, right? He's making money, but it's trending in the wrong direction.
Right.
So he was literally looking at closing his dream down, which is very scary. right? So we had a conversation, and immediately within a week, which this is unusual, but this is a fire that we had to help. We flew out one of our fractional COOs. He jumped in, worked with the guy through the weekend and put a plan in place to actually put out the fire, stabilize the business, begin to, build, develop, and roll out processes and systems and everything to help him actually scale. But also during that process, we identified that he has significant tax burden, some lots of financial issues by not having the right team and everything. So we actually had our fractional CFO tackle that problem to rebuild his finance department as well. So they're in a much better situation. We're actually looking to work with him longer term from a finance perspective, but scaling back and maybe even stepping out from the COO perspective in the next month. So that's one example. I'm happy to go into some others if you'd like.
Well, that's good. I mean, and so isn't your like ultimate goal to fire yourself? You're supposed to work with these companies for a short time, but ultimately you want to fire yourself. Explain that.
Yeah. I mean, not too short that we can't accomplish anything, right? But you're spot on. And I would say most of our assignments, most of them last about a year, right? So if you're looking to engage a fractional leader, give them at least a year, right? Because there's a ramp up period and everything else. But our goal is to figure out what is that next event to success. So for this guy, it was rebuilding my leadership team and giving me some structure and give me some confidence so I can now take my company back over successfully, right? But is it an exit? Is it to go acquire businesses? Is it because I have a very junior leadership team and I'd like to plug in a senior person, say in the COO seat, to show them what that is like and help drive accountability and drive execution? Whatever that is, right? That's where we're aiming at. And that is our finish line per se. But our goal is to get to that point and then, make it so that you are in a much more successful or set up for success per se, where then you can go out and hire somebody full-time to take us over, or you have the right team to get to the next level. But yes, I use that saying all the time with business owners. Our job is to get fired. Our job is to get you to the next step and then get out and set you up for success.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think we have a great understanding what you do. I think we understand how you help people. So, as a company, as GCE, where do you see yourself investing resources over the next year?
Yeah, I mean, just honestly, just like I preach to business owners. So just to go backwards a little bit, over the first, I guess 7.5, 8 years of owning the business, I was actually building out as a fractional COO myself and helping a lot of business owners. And I don't do that anymore, right? So I'm focused on building the company, right? So, we've added to our team significantly. We've actually added a resource in South America. My goal is in the next year to actually expand into Europe. So I'm taking a lot of that cash and investing it back into sales and marketing. And honestly, keeping an eye on my cash flow and understanding that, and the 13 weeks ahead and beyond. But that's where our focus is. We are definitely on a growth trajectory, and it's exciting.
It's very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So you seem to have, when you work with GCE, you don't just, talk the talk. You're actually walking the walk. You're actually doing what you're telling these CEOs to do. And you're doing it from somebody who not only has an extended tenure with multiple companies, but you're doing it in your own business as well. So
Right.
let me ask you this. I'll just circle back on that point.
Sure.
Do you offer the same resources, like your black book, to your clientele? Because that seems like the right people to help with sales and marketing, the right people to help with growth trajectory and SEO and things like that. Do your clients get access to your black book when they work with, you or your company?
Well, that's an interesting put it. And I know in the real estate world, you might have that black book, right? But, we do have resources that we can lean on. We have excellent SEO experts. I know, great attorneys, business strategists, and all of that. But, to be quite honest, GCE is the black book, right? So if you look at CEOs and some of the challenges they need or they're facing, it really honestly is all revolves around people, right? So we can support them in any of their leadership seats, marketing, sales, finance, HR, you name it, and either fractionally and or full time. That's one thing that we didn't touch on. We're not a one size fits all, right? We try to understand their problem and solve it the right way. And that could be fractionally or that could be full time, but it's what is best for them. So ultimately, to be quite honest, I think we are their black book.
That's a great answer. So as we start to wind this down, I'm going to ask you, is there a book or a resource? What would you recommend to a CEO or owner? Some piece of additional support or resoce?
Yeah. So
besides the Shift Spotlight podcast.
Yeah. So first of all, obviously listen to that. Second of all, I love chatting with CEOs. So I would say if anybody ever wants to just talk to me, pick my brain, challenge me. I love being challenged and bring a problem my way. I'll take it head on. Right. So send me an email, Ken@GCE Strategic Consulting.com, and happy to have that conversation with you. And and not looking to sell, honestly looking to give back and help as well, right? But two books that I love, right? So one's really popular right now, Who Not How. It's by Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, phenomenal book. And another one, an oldie but goodie that I love and recommend to any and all leaders that I ever speak with, is the 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell. And it actually walks you through what the different levels of leadership are. And it's interesting because you can be a number 5 at a company, but then when you change companies, you go down to a number 1 or a 2, and you kind of have to start over a little bit. But those are 2 books. So outside, listen to your podcast, email Ken. I'd love to chat. Check those 2 books out.
Awesome. All right. We appreciate you so much for coming on the show. We know you're super busy, and I am glad that we actually got our sponsor here today. So
excellent. I love being here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.